are so used to hearing, don't do that, don't touch that, stop doing that, stop hitting your sister, whatever it may be. But if we focus on what they're doing well, they'll be encouraged to continue doing that, and you'll start to notice that the negative behaviors might slowly start to diminish. So again, this isn't a magical seminar that your kids, when you go home, your kids are going to be perfect. So it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of consistency. So we'll talk a lot about the strategies that you can start using, but overall, if you're consistent with them, it can make a huge impact in your child's behavior. Getting along with others, how children can get along with other kids, other adults, trying to do their best, manage their emotions, how to feel good about themselves, and then in a safe, secure, loving, and low conflict environment. So of course, we talk a lot at our agency about about safety a lot. So I might kind of touch on that a little bit more. It's just kind of embedded in me to talk about safety and safety with parents. So like I talked about, parenting can be rewarding, enjoyable, demanding, frustrating, exhausting. Can anybody think of another word that kind of describes being a parent? Just yell some of them out. Anyone?
Scary.
Scary? Anyone else? Annoying? Can be. There's no wrong answer.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming? That's what I kind of talk about all my clients. It is overwhelming to be a parent. Using assertive discipline, so assertive instead of aggressive. This whole program is really designed to stay away from the hitting and yelling and spanking and more aggressive types of discipline. And it's, you know, what I mentioned, focusing on what they're doing well. And there's also discipline strategies that can be used. Having realistic expectations. So is it really realistic for my 7-year-old to go to school all day, come home, do his homework, get ready for bed, eat dinner, and then, you know, make his bed and clean his room? Well, probably not. So maybe those things can wait until, you know, the next day, or making a plan of you clean your room on Tuesdays and Thursdays instead of, you know, you immediately come home and you have to do these things. So being realistic. And then also my favorite one is taking care of yourself as a parent, because when you find yourself stressed out and tired and upset and you had a bad day, it's going to make it really hard to be patient with your kids. And that voice is going to get raised. It's going to be, you know, if they do something little, it's going to be like fire under you because you've had a long day and you're, you know, kind of tired of it. So if you have a partner, really switching off those roles. If you have family members, anything that you can take advantage of, you know, that your resources that you can get that break for yourself is so important. So like that preparation I told you for the ground rules. So let's say you guys made those ground rules for the grocery store and it was a disaster. And so you're in the car on the way home. That's when you kind of have that discussion. And when I think of discussion, it's not supposed to be a lecture and this, you know, sitting down for an hour and telling you what you did wrong. It's basically just getting in the car and saying, hey, do you remember our 3 rules? I don't think you followed them. Can you tell me what those rules were again? Okay. And then helping them through it if they forgot them. And telling them, yeah, remember we were gonna go to the park after, and now we can't go to the park because you were, you know, running in the aisles and you were pulling things off the shelf, and so we had to leave. That's kind of the minor conversation that you can have instead of, you know, get in the car, slamming everything and driving and all those sorts of things. So trying to have a calm conversation, and even if that means you need to go home and take a couple of minutes and you need a timeout, do that. That's fine. Parents need a timeout all the time. So really just trying to stick with that. Giving clear, calm instructions. So they talk about these start and stop instructions. And I'll try to break these down because they can get a little bit confusing the first time you hear them. So start instructions is something that you want your kids to go do. So that would be like clean your room, pick up your toys, go get ready for school. So those can be given twice. So you say, you use their name, especially if you have more than one child. You always want to make sure that you're within an arm's length distance, because if you're in the kitchen, they're upstairs, and you just scream, "Time for dinner!" Yeah, they're probably just going to either ignore you, or maybe they just really didn't hear you. And so that's an argument that just can be prevented right there if you're, whoops, there it goes again, if you're right in front of them. So you can say, "Chelsea, it's time to get ready for dinner. I need you to come to the table." And giving them about 5 seconds to process, because, they need to get that through their head. However, if they don't do it, you're going to ask them one more time. "I told you it's time for dinner. You need to come to the table." They don't do it again, right there, that's a consequence. So putting in that consequence after the second time versus the stop instruction would be for things you want them to stop doing. So stop hitting, stop running. However, when you say the stop, you need to follow it up with what they should do instead. So stop hitting your sister and play nicely. Stop running in the hallways and walk. And so that's when you want them to stop immediately, and you give that one time. And after the 5 seconds, if they don't do as they're asked, then that's when you give the consequence. So they learn that, okay, when mom and dad say stop, they really mean stop, or I'm going to lose a privilege, or whatever the consequence is. If, for the younger ones, let's say that they are, arguing over a video game, and so you take it away. What the program recommends, and it's really beneficial, is only taking it away for a set period of time, because when you take it away and say, "This is gone for the whole day," or "This is gone for the week," then that's when you run into the problem of kids are like, "Well, she took it away for the week, so I'm just going to keep being bad, and I'm going to keep doing whatever." It also, by the end of the week, are you even still remembering that and thinking, "What the heck did they just do? That really made me mad"? Also, kids will forget, and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that video game was gone. I found a different video game to, play with." So really taking it away for, little ones, starting off with, the really little ones, starting off with like, "This is gone for 20 minutes, give it back after 20 minutes. Okay, you did it again. This is gone for an hour, give it back. Okay, you did it again, time to do a different consequence." For the older ones, saying, "Okay, you lost this for an hour, giving it back. Okay, you did it again, you lost this for an hour and a half." So kind of building up the time, and you don't have to really use that amount of time. But instead of doing the very drastic kind of measures. So those are kind of the taking away things. Has anybody ever used quiet time and timeout? I have a lot of laughs. Okay, we have 15 minutes. So basically with the quiet time, this is something new that I actually learned when I started doing this program 2 years ago. And quiet time is basically, like, let's say kiddo is playing and he's, they're arguing with each other, and they're arguing over a toy. So all you're gonna do is move them a couple feet away from the activity, and that way kids can say, "Okay, I wanna get back to that, so I'm gonna behave." And so it's quiet time because they're gonna be quiet. So of course you talk to them about it before it starts, but removing them from it for a set period of time. For little ones, it's between 0 and 5 minutes. And then letting them go back. If they are not quiet, if they're kicking and screaming and yelling, that's when you move to timeout. So they kind of do it as taking away the problem activity, quiet time, and then timeout is supposed to be like the mother load. So that's like the one for serious misbehavior. If you come in and your kid is smacking another kid in the face, it's okay to take them directly to timeout. On the sheet, it has a lot about timeout. So I won't touch too much on this. And again, please email me if you guys need a copy. But basically, some of the main things for timeout that a lot of people kind of misread when they use their own is timeout is supposed to be a designated area. So quiet time is just a few feet away. Timeout is somewhere super uninteresting and boring. So if that's a hallway or your little timeout chair in, a room, I will say that on the sheet, it does say it's okay to close the door and hold it. Do not do that. Do not lock your kid in the room or hold it shut. I think what it's trying to say is like it's okay if you just like barricade them. If they're moving around and everything and they're little, put them in a playpen or a pack and play, like an area, or put a baby gate up, like somewhere they can't get out. But for timeout, it would be the time doesn't start until they're quiet. So if you tell them go to this corner right here and there's your timeout, and they go there and they're kicking and screaming for 30 minutes, okay, you can throw your fit over there. But the second it stops, that's when you start the timer. And also another thing is when kids are done with their timeout, just tell them, okay, it's over, and walk away, because sometimes they sit there and they pout, and then parents are like, oh, it's okay, and kind of running back up to them. They just won that battle because you just went up to them and told them how sorry you were. Creating that safe, interesting environment, encouraging them to learn, using assertive, not aggressive discipline, having reasonable expectations, and also taking care of yourself as a parent.
Hi, thank you for arranging this for for the parents, and it's really, I learned a lot, and I'm missing my husband, but I'm gonna pass it to my husband, and we learned a lot, and we applied for our children, and thank you Garland ISD for giving us the opportunity to learn, and we raise our good case with this training. Thanks for everything.